Today I have another anniversary review for you from a classic rock band, and I think it's an album that gets overlooked in their discography. The name of the album is Mirrors by the band Blue Öyster Cult. It's their sixth studio album, released on June 19th, 1979. It is celebrating 45 years. This is the first Blue Öyster Cult album not produced by Sandy Pearlman. It was produced by Tom Werman. The album followed a string of successful albums, including Agents of Fortune, released in 1976, The Inspectors from 1977, and the popular live album Some Enchanted Evening from 1978. Unfortunately, this album was not as popular. Mirrors struggled to reach gold status, disappointing the band and label. The band wanted to make a high-charting record with glossy production. They later went with Martin Birch in an attempt to return to a darker sound, but that's another story. Let's talk about the album cover. The front cover shows a photorealistic painting by Loren Salazar of a side view mirror. The inner sleeve shows an image from the House of Mirrors scene in a movie called The Lady From Shanghai. Here's a clip of it.
I might have gone on playing it your way. You didn't know that, but you did plan for me to follow you.
Let's talk about the songs. The first song is called Dr. Music. It was written by Joe Bouchard, Buck Dharma, and Richard Meltzler. It has Eric Bloom on lead vocals. The song has some funky guitar riffs. There's also the harmonica playing and female backing vocals. It was like a funky Aerosmith song. There's some interesting drumming on this one. The main riff was reminiscent on Roy Orbison's Pretty Woman. Next is The Great Sun Jester, written by Eric Bloom, Michael Moorcock, and John Trivers. Eric Bloom was on lead vocals. This was a laid-back track, has some softer vocals. It reminded me of some prog rock of the 70s. It was like one of those early songs from the band Styx. The second half of the song had more keyboards and an upbeat rhythm. It sounded like mid-70s radio rock. Someone compared it to The Wizard by Uriah Heep, and I thought it was a good comparison. I heard a little bit of an influence from The Who as well. This song was co-written by Eric Bloom, John Trivers, and Michael Moorcock, and based on Michael Moorcock's novel The Fire Clown. It was the first of several Moorcock co-writes with the band. Next is In Thee, written by Alan Lanier and Buck Dharma on lead vocals. It was a cool song. The song references Jim Carroll Band's song Day and Night. It charted at number 74. It was like a country rock song. It was pretty good. It had some acoustic guitars and a country twang. This was one of the singles. I don't think it was very popular. I think in general the album did not have many popular songs, but it was still a strong album. It showed the band going in different directions. There was a lot of variety on this album. I'll delve more into that in my final thoughts. Then there was a title track, Mirrors. It was written by Buck Dharma and Bruce Abbott, with Buck Dharma on lead vocals. It was a straightforward rock song about mirrors. More specifically, it's about vanity. The chorus, pretty girls can't look away. This one had more of that 80s new wave sound. I think this was one of the few songs that I recognized in the album. It was a very catchy song. I think it was only released as a single in the UK. Next is Moon Crazy. It was written by Joe Bouchard, also on lead vocals. This one reminded me of their early sound from their first few albums. Buck Dharma has a cool guitar solo in the first part of the song. This reminded me of their sound from Secret Treaties. It was a cool song. The song speeds up during the last minute of the song. Let's talk about side 2. The first song is The Vigil. It was written by Buck Dharma and Sandra Rosa, with Buck Dharma on lead vocals. I like the song. It was very different. It starts out like a prog rock song, then it gets heavy. This one has one of the heaviest guitar riffs. It reminded me of the Beatles, but like a little heavier than the Beatles. This one had a great rhythm and some cool guitar playing by Buck Dharma. I thought this one had more of a modern sound, but there's also a nod to some of those progressive rock bands from the 70s. There was so much melody in the song. It was 6.5 minutes long, but there were so many different sections to the song. Then there was a song, I Am the Storm. It was written by Bouchard and Ronald Binder. Eric Bloom was on lead vocals. This was another one with that classic sound. Sounded like some of their early stuff, but at the same time you could also hear some of that late 70s rock influence. This one was not too bad. Then there was a song, You're Not the One I Was Looking For. It was written by Bouchard and Karen Bouchard with Albert Bouchard on lead vocals. This was another one of the singles, and the first comment I read was that they were comparing it to both the Cheap Trick and the Cars. And I could definitely hear that. It had that foot-stomping rhythm, the kind you would hear on rock radios in the late 70s. This was also one of the singles, and I thought it was a very catchy song. Next is Lonely Teardrops. It was written by Alan Lanier and Buck Dharma on lead vocals. It's the last song. It's one that has a very funky, almost 70s disco type of sound, but at the same time it sounds like classic Blue Öyster Cult. Now I want to do something different. I went on progarchives.com and I found 2 reviews, one negative and one positive. So we're going to talk about those and just compare them. Let's see what these people said about this album. So first, the negative review. This was from a username Raf. He only gave it 1 star. This person considered it a big step backwards, more so than Agents of Fortune and Spectres. He described it as a mishmash of lackluster, trivial rock and roll, poppy ballads, and a couple of decent tracks. He said it was nothing comparable to previous hits like Don't Fear the Reaper or Golden Age of Leather. He had some specific song critiques. He said In Thee was a lame attempt at a romantic song. Dr. Music was too much like Kiss for Comfort. Mirrors, the title track, had an almost disco beat, saved only by Buck Dharma's solo. But he said the use of female backing vocals adds radio friendliness. He said there were some highlights. The Great Sun Jester was good but considered the weakest of the Michael Moorcock collaborations with Blue Öyster Cult. The Vigil was the album's longest track, slow-burning, mid-tempo with an acoustic intro, remarkable guitar work, and time changes. He said it could fit on earlier albums like Secret Treaties. I'm the Storm was a brisk rocker, marginally more interesting but somewhat uninspired. Now, there was a positive review on progarchives.com. Actually, most of them were positive, but this one was by the user Finn Forrest. He gave it 4 out of 5 stars. He argues that fans who wanted Blue Öyster Cult to rehash their first 3 albums were not going to get this. He believes that it was part of Blue Öyster Cult's second trilogy, such as going into Mirrors, and it expanded their legacy. He said these albums add to Blue Öyster Cult's diversity, distinguishing them from other hard rock bands. He called it a moody album, some darkness, some light, perfect for highway cruising at dusk or dawn. He said the album cover art reflects the mood as well. He said it sounds like a continuation of Spectres, but shifts to sonically cooler places. He called it Blue Öyster Cult's West Coast album. Their only 70s album made in Los Angeles. He said the new producer Tom Werman challenged the band's ingrained notions and musicianship. He compares Mirrors to Styx's Cornerstone, both presenting versions of their bands with earnest precision and pop sentiments. He acknowledges criticism of chasing FM airplay, but defends the results as ear candy. As for the songs, The Great Sun Jester had warm acoustic guitar, Lindsey Buckingham-style attention to detail. The Vigil could fit on earlier albums, mysterious vibe, a multi-section construction, harmonies, guitar solos. You're Not the One was odd but fantastic, sounds like the Cars. It features Kim Deal-like guitar sound. Moon Crazy was pure pop shine with killer playing. Indie was a sweet track by Alan Lanier. He said it was a possible Patti Smith influence. Lonely Teardrops had a beautiful musical sunset, background harmonies, soft keys, and a great guitar solo. And now for my final thoughts. I definitely like this album. I hadn't listened to it in a long time. This is one of those albums that had a lot of variety on it, and I think it's a very underrated album. It doesn't have many of the big radio hits like some of their previous albums, but it has some hidden gems on it. I think it's an underrated album from their discography. I definitely like it. Let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on Mirrors by Blue Öyster Cult. Check out this video I did 2 years ago ranking my top 10 albums of 1979. And this album, Mirrors, happens to be on that list, so check out that video, see where I rank it. Thanks for watching. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. I'll see you in the next one.